Batman and the Joker are perhaps the most popular comic book superhero and supervillain respectively, but what happens when you put them together? The answer is money. Oh, so much money. So back in 2017, DC Comics revealed their most popular new character they have had in years, the Batman Who Laughs. The premise is pretty simple. There's an alternate universe version of Batman who killed the Joker, but in that moment, Joker's lifeless body spewed a toxin that drove Bruce Wayne into madness, becoming a Joker/Batman hybrid that really likes tight leather outfits. Because of his breakout success, DC threw this guy into everything. Comics, toys, video games, board games, whatever you could slap this guy onto, do it now. Every other day, this dude would pop up to wreak havoc on the DC universe, and eventually the company landed on a pretty obvious storyline. Hey, what if the Batman Who Laughs infected other superheroes in order to create its own twisted version of the Justice League? And you know what? I thought this would be really easy to explain, but I read a bunch of it, and no, it's not. We have seen this trope done a million times. Oh no, the good guys turned bad. It's an easy thing to write, and these types of stories are usually straightforward. We didn't get that here. Instead, this storyline is one of the most confusing and convoluted messes that DC Comics has ever published. It brought in extremely all over the place lore, ideas, and concepts that are a massive pain in the ass to unravel. And this is coming from me, a guy who literally reads and analyzes comic books for a living. Now don't get me wrong, I can explain all of it, but buckle up because it is going to be a wild ride. So back in his home universe, the Batman Who Laughs has a big evil satellite, and if he can bring it into the main DC Comics universe, then he can use it to infect everyone on Earth with the same virus that turned him into a juggalo. But in order to open the interversal portal, he has to harness 6 different energies. So to do that, he made these special batarangs that are specifically designed to infect 6 specific heroes that represent those forces. 6 energies, 6 people. So far so good? Good. The Batman Who Laughs' first target was Hawkman. Look, Hawkman is one of the single most confusing characters in all of comic books. Like, he's so convoluted that I made a dedicated video trying to explain his complicated history, and since then, he has only gotten worse. But here's what you need to know. Hawkman heavily relies on his gear, which is made out of a special material called nth metal. This stuff is basically magic, and more or less does whatever the writer wants it to do. But one of its main properties is that it can heal the folks around it, and because of this healing factor, the Batman Who Laughs had to infect Hawkman first, since it would take longer for the sickness to take hold of him. But here's the thing. Hawkman's entire shtick is that he has lived a bunch of past lives, and is constantly getting reincarnated. Some of these lives were on Earth. Pew! He's a cowboy now. Some of them were on other planets. Pew! He's a Kryptonian now. But some of these past lives were in different universes. Because comics. So when Hawkman was cut by the tainted Batarang, his consciousness was suppressed, allowing for one of his past lives to take the wheel. Specifically, Sky Tyrant, who was the life that he lived on Earth 3, the universe where the alignments of the heroes and villains have swapped, and so the good Hawkman is still floating around in his head, but he's helpless to do anything about it, and is stuck watching Sky Tyrant kill person after person in his body. The good news is that all of that was the most complicated part of this entire video, so if you were able to stick through it without being completely lost, well, it's all smooth sailing from here, but don't worry, there's still plenty more weird shit to talk about. Like Shazam! His entire thing is that he has the best secret identity of all time. He's a preteen that turns into a big buff adult superhero when he says his magic word. But this is kind of genius. After being corrupted, Shazam channels his inner middle school edgelord. He thinks that he is so dark and edgy, but is actually super obnoxious. I can only speak for myself, but that is absolutely how I acted when I was in middle school. Oh yeah, look at how dark and broody I was, reading Aragon, and being casually sexist on internet forums. After giving himself the title King Shazam, Billy became obsessed with showing off how strong he is. He was somehow able to locate and beat up several literal gods, like Thor and the Kryptonian god Ra. These are some extremely powerful and cosmically significant beings, so you would expect that this would have ramifications around the universe, or that at the very least we would see something happen as a result. Yeah, no, these dudes aren't seen or mentioned again. Once she saw how far he had fallen, Billy's sister Mary Marvel swooped in and tried to stop him. But it turns out that all of the infected heroes have the ability to spread the sickness to whoever they want, completely ignoring the fact that the Batarangs originally needed to be specifically designed for each individual person. Whatever, King Shazam beat up Mary and tainted her. Here's the weird thing though. Much like how we don't get to see or hear about the gods that King Shazam fought, Mary also wasn't seen or mentioned again in this storyline, so we never got to see her turn to the dark side. What's funnier is that evil versions of Mary are a pretty common thing that DC Comics likes to bring out from time to time, so it's odd that they wouldn't just leap at this opportunity. Regardless, this seems like a huge missed opportunity for the Batman Who Laughs, due to the fact that much like her brother, Mary is extremely powerful, and it's weird that he didn't use her in his scheme. But moving on, the next of the infected heroes is Blue Beetle. Jaime Reyes gets his powers from a mysterious scarab, but while DC is always flipping and flopping between if it's a high-tech piece of alien technology or a powerful magic relic, we do know that he has never unleashed its true destructive powers. Well, that is until the Batman Who Laughs cut him with the Batarang, and Beetle went full-on savage alien, complete with a loincloth for some reason. Now going by Scarab, Jaime's whole thing is eating people and spewing this black goop. That's really it. He is barely used or seen in the storyline, so let's move on. Donna Troy is another one of the most complicated characters in all of comic books, but thankfully her nonsense isn't relevant for this video, so all you really need to know is that she's basically Wonder Woman. I mean, she actually was Wonder Woman for a little bit, so yeah. After being infected by a Batarang shot out of a VCR, Donna took up the new identity of Deathbringer, and is more or less just an angry battle girl. She took out the rest of her team, the Titans, and that's it. Yeah, just like Scarab, she is not really seen or used in the storyline. Another missed opportunity? Let's move on. With 4 out of his 6 chosen heroes infected, the Batman Who Laughs was able to start setting his plan into motion. Chuckles over here kidnapped Commissioner Gordon, fought and was defeated by the good Batman, and was locked up. But unbeknownst to the good Bruce, Gordon was infected, and working behind the scenes to enact his master's plan. Wait a second, wasn't the point of corrupting these specific characters because they each represented a different cosmic energy that was needed to open up the big bad portal? What energy does Commissioner Gordon represent? Nicotine? Donuts? Police brutality? And wait another second, why did the writers decide to never tell us what any of these energies even are? I mean, DC loves to over-explain stuff and name every little thing. Why stop now? Anyway, the last target was a tough one, Superman. Alright, get this. Commissioner Gordon told Batman and Superman that a kid was reportedly kidnapped by a Jokerized Superman, which prompted the duo to investigate. When they got to where the kid was held, they found him corrupted and forced into this twisted Robin costume. The two heroes tried to save the child, but it turns out that this was all just an ambush, and that wasn't any old kid. That was actually Billy Batson, King Shazam. Tainted Batarang in hand, Batson tried his best to infect Supes, but Batman and Superman were able to fight him to a stalemate, which allowed King Shazam to get away. Out of leads but desperate to uncover the Batman Who Laughs plan, Superman infected himself with a small amount of the dark metal and tried to go undercover and get close to him by pretending to bust the Batman Who Laughs out of his cell. Laughing Boy saw right through this and tried to anger and provoke Clark into giving in to the temptation of the corruption, but the good Batman stepped in and shut him down. Now, all hell breaks loose. Gordon attacked the heroes with the mech that he had back when he was Batman. Scarab's armor hacks both the Batcave and the Fortress of Solitude, and the rest of the evil dudes join in for a big climactic showdown. But just as things were looking helpless, and that the Batarang meant to infect Superman was headed straight towards him, bam! Supergirl bursts in and catches it before it can touch her cousin. But hold up, that heroic save caused her to cut her hand, which means that now we have a Supergirl Who Laughs to deal with. To make things worse, she represented the final vague energy, which means the group's plan would still go into motion without Clark. With the gang all assembled, the Secret Six, dumb name, performed the ritual to open up the portal to start bringing the satellite through. But of course, in typical Batman fashion, the good Bruce was able to shut down the portal, and Superman did his usual move of throwing the satellite into the sun. With their plan foiled, the Secret Six scattered to do evil shit all over the world, but Batman and Superman don't pursue them. All they were able to do was capture Commissioner Gordon and keep him locked up in the Hall of Justice while they searched for a cure. So that never ended up happening, and in fact, even though this was specifically a Batman and Superman story that took place in the literal Batman and Superman comic book, they're no longer involved with any of this. So now, the only person who can fight the Batman Who Laughs and his Secret Six is Apex Lex. Great, now I have to explain Apex Lex. Fantastic. Okay, so Lex Luthor met the creator of the multiverse. Her name is Perpetua, and she is really, really evil. Luthor was able to convince Perpetua into letting him be her right-hand man, and in doing so, she turned him into an apex predator, a perfect killing machine that is a Martian/human hybrid. And by the way, the Martian that Lex was fused with was the Martian Manhunter. Because comics. So Apex Lex single-handedly took on the Secret Six. He used every trick up his sleeves. His new Apex Predator powers, his army of robot drones, his mech suits, everything. After beating up the team, he researched how to cure them, but slight curveball. Remember how I said that any of the infected heroes could corrupt anyone that they wanted? Well, every time that someone came in to feed Commissioner Gordon, he tainted them. So now, more or less every B-list hero on the Justice League got infected. Including my boy, Booster Gold. As strong as Apex Lex was with all of his new powers and weapons, he couldn't just take on an entire Justice League Who Laughs by himself, so he called up a bunch of his villain friends and had them fight the League while he just strolled on up to the Batman Who Laughs and inject him with a mystery liquid. See, it turns out that corrupting all these heroes wasn't as simple as just infecting them with the Joker toxin. No, that would actually make sense. What really happened is that the Batman Who Laughs radiates his own dark energy, and the toxic batarangs just allowed him to broadcast that energy into everyone. What? Okay, sure. Lex's injection cut off this energy at the source and made it to where it couldn't be broadcast into everybody. So, yup, all of the heroes are instantly healed, and Luthor decided to bring the Batman Who Laughs to Perpetua so that she could enact the final judgment. But ever the clever manipulator, the Batman Who Laughs was able to convince Perpetua to make him her right-hand man instead of Lex. Of course, this was all just a setup for Chuckles to assert Perpetua, take her power, take over the multiverse, and remake it in his own image. But that whole story is the death metal event, and wow, that is going to have to be another video for another day. This story was an absolute mess. Like I said, it could have and should have been an extremely straightforward storyline of good guys turned bad, but I feel like so much of it was rushed, underdeveloped, forgotten about, and or unexplained in a bad way. Like, look, I'm not trying to say that everything needs to be spoon-fed to readers, but so much of this plot makes zero sense to me. But hey, the art was enjoyable, and who knows, I could be totally wrong. I skipped over a ton of little details in this video, so if you want to read it for yourself and tell me how bad my opinions are, then feel free to pick it up. The story starts in Batman and Superman and concludes in the Year of the Villain, Hell Arisen. Links to purchase both of these are down there in the description below, so help support the comic industry and myself by actually taking the time to read these books. But if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing, or even watching another one? And if you liked this, well, you can watch more videos. I got that Hawkman one that I mentioned in the video, or you can watch the video that I did explaining the entire DC multiverse. They're both complex, but I think I broke them down okay ways. I'm tired. I don't want to talk about this anymore, so I'm gonna go. So anyway, hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.